So today I'll be filming my best player at each position video, and I talked about most of these players in my top transfers and top players returning that could have entered the draft video. Um, but mm, I do think that Dylan Gabriel from Oregon uh, uh, will be the best quarterback this season. Mm, I think that mm, he'll have his best year mm, this year in his last season of college football and mm, be highly drafted. Mm, And I think that he'll have a 4,000 yard passing season this year. and mm, running back, uh, it's Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State. Now, mm, mm, I hadn't heard of him before last season when he started having all those big games. And mm, he's like Judkins uh, in the way that he kind of came out of nowhere, and he was only a three-star recruit uh, when he came out of high school. Uh, mm, except Judkins uh, started off his college career uh, really good, and uh, uh, Gordon didn't get really good until his sophomore year. But mm, mm, he didn't start the first three games of this past season, and uh, mm, in the first three, he only had 19 carries and only 109 yards. But then after that, he started every other game, which that was 11 games, and he ended up finishing the season with 1,732 yards on 285 carries. And uh, averaged at 6.1 yards a carry, which that is really good. And he had 21 touchdowns. That is so many touchdowns, and that's so many yards too. Uh, mm, that that is a really good yard average for uh, his last 11 games, and uh, mm, in nine of their last 11 games, he had over 100 rushing yards. And he even had two 200-yard rushing games last season, and they were in a row, actually. So mm, mm, he actually became the strength, really, for Oklahoma State's offense last season. Uh, really, they made the conference championship game because they had him, and mm, them getting him back this year is huge. Mm, and he'll be mm, a possibility uh, to become the first running back to win the Heisman since Derrick Henry of Alabama in 2015. Mm, So I think the best receiver is uh, Trey Harris from Ole Miss. Mm, I talked about him in one of my videos, but uh, mm, Mm, I think if he can stay healthy, he'll have well over 1,000 receiving yards this season. Mm, And mm, uh, I think he'll be a first round draft pick. And I knew from the first game that he played as a Rebel that he was going to be a special player for uh, my team because in that first game that he played for Ole Miss, he set a Ole Miss record for four receiving touchdowns in a game. Mm, Uh, and mm, uh, tight end is Caden Prescorn from Ole Miss. You know, I talked about him. Uh, and if you look at Prescorn's numbers for the year last season, you'll think, how could he be the best tight end? Uh, but mm, mm, actually, he did most of his mm, uh, numbers in the last three games of the season. In the Ole Miss's last three games, he had 20 catches for 243 yards and uh, four touchdowns. And he only had four touchdowns all year last year, so he had every one of his touchdowns in the last three. Uh, mm, and uh, in the last three, he averaged uh, in between six and seven catches a game. And you know, tight ends don't make as many catches as wide receivers do. They do more blocking. So if a tight end could catch five passes in a game, that's really good for them. Mm, uh, if Prescorn can continue that uh, success into next season, which I do think he will, I'm pretty sure he'll be the top tight end. Mm, And offensive line, uh, it's Caden Proctor from Iowa. Mm, I talked about him in the top transfers video. Mm, so mm, he mm, doesn't hardly ever allow any sacks, and he's very good at opening up holes for running backs to mm, get through, and uh, he should get even better at that with a year of experience as a starter. Mm, And defensive line, it's Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. I talked about him too. Uh, and I think he will have his best year so far uh, in his junior season this year. Uh, because you know now he's very experienced, and he'll start every game for Ole Miss this season on the defensive line. Mm, And linebacker, it's Danny Stutzman from Oklahoma, another one I talked about. Uh, and he's one of the best linebackers that I've uh, ever seen. Uh, and mm, cornerback, uh, it's mm, Billy Bowman from Oklahoma. Mm, So, mm, uh, in 2022, uh, mm, he played in 11 games and started nine games mm, and had 61 tackles, which that's good for uh, mm, a cornerback. Uh, really good, actually. Mm, And three interceptions. And he started every game at cornerback this past season and had 63 tackles. And he had six interceptions. That's a whole lot. And he had three pick sixes. And Oklahoma last year actually won one game really just because of him. Uh, it was the BYU game. They won by 7 points, 31 to 24, and there was a time in the game where uh, BYU was getting really close to scoring, and then Bowman uh, intercepts them in the end zone and then runs it back 100 yards for a pick six. Uh, so, if you take off that touchdown, then uh, that puts it at a tie, and then without the turnover, you know, BYU probably gets at least a field goal and wins that game. So, uh, he has been a really important player for Oklahoma. Mm, mm, and the top safety, I said this in my top transfers video. It's Caleb Downs. From Ohio State, and uh, I've been watching football for so long, over 10 years, and uh, Caleb Downs is the best safety I've ever seen, for real. Uh, mm, it is so rare for a safety to get 100 or more tackles uh, mm, in a season, and he got 107. Mm, And uh, Mm. Caleb Downs actually m- might not just be the best safety in the country. I think there's a good chance that he'll be the best defensive player in the country this year. Him and uh, Stutzman will be the top two defensive players this year, and uh, I wouldn't even be surprised if Caleb Downs is the best football player in the country this year. Uh, mm, and I know that because he's a defensive player, he won't win the Heisman Trophy, but that still doesn't mean that he's not the best player. And so Alabama has been the most talented team, not just last year, but for the past so many years. And I actually believe that Caleb Downs was uh, the best player on Alabama's team last season. So to be the best player on their team, you've got to be uh, really good. Mm, so that will be mm, about it with this video. And nope, Colorado doesn't have any of uh, the best players at a position, not even close. I don't know if they even have a player in the top 50 of their position. Uh, but mm, please subscribe, and thanks for watching another video.